minimise the economic burden of older unemployed Australians. Older Aussies, say in their mid to late 60s, should consider working longer. Now, I say that. Now, he did explicitly say that, this is not about forcing people to stay working longer, but a part of it is perhaps looking at an idea of getting the skills you might need so you can be in a position to work longer to ease the economic burden. Now, I spoke to a few of you this morning at Cotton Tree about what you think of this idea. This is Margaret first up.
I've been working for 45 years and I am spent. I've had businesses, I've paid for staff, and we ended up working for the lifestyle that the staff became accustomed to, not us. And I don't want to work anymore and I am tired. So if he wants people dying at their desk, go ahead.
Are you retired?
Yes, I have now.
How long have you been retired for?
12 months. And my husband, he collapsed at work, had a stroke, and I'm looking after him. And it's all because of stress from work and looking after a business.
Gosh, okay. So how old was your husband when he had the stroke?
He had his first one at 48. He got over that. He had his second one at 62 and he can't work again. And we were in tax law.
Just very long hours.
Very intense. Every time a politician opens their mouth, we have to comply and the rules change for them. They don't understand cause and effect.
If you don't mind me asking, how old are you, Margaret?
I've turned 65.
Yeah.
I started work when I was 15 because that's the way it was with us.
Do you know when you can access the pension?
Yes, I do. But because my husband's younger than I am, we have to wait for him. So we're on our own.
Okay. David, you think this is a good idea?
I think it's good because I was planning to work to 70 anyway. And if it's good for Australia, it's good for me, it's good for my grandkids.
What about your work makes you think I'm going to keep on working till 70? Is it work satisfaction?
Yeah, partly work satisfaction too. Pension's not enough, so you've got to save more for your super.
And what do you do?
Insurance. Life insurance. So I got, like 800 clients and I look after them. So that's good.
All right, Zoe, you're 21, you work and you actually train kids to be ninja warriors, which is probably another conversation. But what do you think of the Treasurer's idea here?
I think I'm not really sure, really. I haven't really looked too much into this. But I think, continuing to work is probably best for the economy.
Are your parents retired?
No, they both work.
They both work.
Yeah.
And how old are they? Don't mind me asking.
45-ish.
No, it's not a good idea because that's just like moving the goalposts in a game of football or something, All of a sudden they just decide to change where the goalposts are and people haven't planned for that all their lives. I think it's wrong what they're doing, yeah.
Do you work yourself?
Myself, I don't work at the moment, yeah. Well, I'd like to work, but there's just not enough jobs out there. So if they're forcing old people now to look for jobs, that's just ridiculous. It's already ridiculous, There's people that are 63, 64 and they can't get the pension and they're just sitting on the dole because they're waiting to be able to get the pension.
Okay, so that's Mark and a few other folk in Cotton Tree, actually, this morning talking about this idea from the Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg, about people potentially working older or looking at it. But how difficult can that process be? Say you decide to, for example, go to uni as a mature age student, get the skills. When it comes to getting a job, that process, what kind of help do you need and what are people seeing who are actually the people who are helping older Aussies getting work? So Kate Langford is here. Now, Kate lives in Batinia. She runs her own business, Kate Langford Consulting, works in career consulting, helping people with their CVs, the interview process, very passionate about this area. Morning to you, Kate. Do you agree with the Treasurer?
Oh, good morning, everyone. Yeah, look, I do. I think we're all living longer, so we need to be able to afford to be able to live longer, and I don't think the pension's going to be around forever. So I think it's important that, rather than fighting against it, that we start going, okay, look, how are we actually going to get back into work and how are we actually going to make it flexible and making sure that we look after our mental health as well as physical health the whole way through. And it doesn't necessarily mean working full time.
You've been doing this for 15 years, so quite a long time.
Yeah.
Now, of the
Yeah.
people you help on the coast, how many of them fall into this age group that the Treasurer was talking about?
Oh, no joke. It would be 80 to 90% of my clients would be between the ages of 45 and 65. I help people ages 52 not work for 3 years, get into jobs that they love, and then work their way to that work-life balance as well by proving yourself. You know, it's not just about getting in there and, you know, knowing all the skill sets. It's about culture fit. It's about, you know, getting your foot in the door and getting in front of these people, you know, and that's where the resume comes in. If you've got, unfortunately, in this day and age, discrimination does happen, you know, let's just be real about it. But, you know, if you've got everything off your resume that, you know, doesn't allude to an age or anything like that, and you've got the skill sets and you've talked about the passion and the why and why you'd be good for the job, you get the interview, you sit down there, you're already 3/4 of the way through it.
Well,
Okay, and that's where,
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just pick up on the part you said about the CV. If you leave the information about the age off it, I mean
correct.
that's the big sticking point, isn't it? Because you put on the CV, this is my age, and then you don't even get to the interview process, and that's where you get stopped at the process, isn't it?
Yeah. Look, unfortunately, you know, and I'm a bit of a straight shooter here, and anyone who works with me knows that. But look, if you've got a date of birth, if you've got a picture, if you've got career history of 40 years on a resume, and then you've got someone who doesn't, unfortunately, the recruiter or HR may go the other way. So that's why we need to make sure that when we're presenting ourselves, we're doing it right, in the right format with the right resume, to make sure that we're giving ourselves the best chance and having a really awesome cover letter that's actually going to talk about the why. You know, what is it that you can bring to the business? Because as I said, 60% of employers these days will hire on culture fit. And if you've got the confidence, which is what I teach as well, you know how to sell yourself, you know how to answer those questions, then honestly, you're putting yourself in that top 10%.
Do you think the attitudes of employers hiring older Australians, that attitude has shifted and moved with the ageing population and the demands that requires?
100%. And I've been doing it, as I said, recruitment in the industry over 15 years. And I previously would look at the younger generation, and it's no offence to anyone out there, you know, but the younger generation, I found that they can, you know, maybe come and go a little bit more. The older ones have got that different work ethic. I'm not saying everyone, because I'm in that Gen Y myself, so I can actually say this. But, you know, if you've got the passion and the enthusiasm and the willingness to learn and willingness to change and adapt and flexibility and all those things, honestly, employers these days are saying, you know what, yeah, you might be 52, but you've got the right attitude. And you know what, we can train that skill, because skills can be trained, but attitude can't.
Is the attitude out there in these older Australians that you're finding? Is there
What
enough of
attitude,
it?
sorry?
See, is there enough of it, of enough people saying, you know what, I'll give it a go, you know, have a go to get a go, as the Prime Minister would say?
Yeah. Yeah, look, I think with the people I work with, yes, because they're coming to me saying, Kate, help me. I want to know what I can do as a career that I love and that I'm not just good at. And that's what I teach, you know, do a job that you love, not just what you're good at. But I think for a lot of people out there, again, straight shoot here, they will use it as an excuse. So I talk about the mind block and the mental block of age all the time. And everyone, you know, when I do workshops and things across the country, they say to me, oh, but Kate, my age. And I'm like, okay, are you going to let age be the barrier, or are you actually going to go out there and do everything you can in your power to actually make that not an issue and talk about you as a person and what you've got to offer a business? So, yeah, the attitude, I'd say, is definitely still out there, but with the people that come to me, these people are ready and wanting to make a change.
29 after 9, Kate Langford is here. She's a career coach, talking about this idea of Australians working for longer, as the Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg, has suggested in a speech last night that he gave to the girl. I'll get the exact place where he gave the speech. You have a bit of context. But just on this topic, Kate, one of our texters, Monty, says, if Mr. Frydenberg can get me a job on his pay and the heaviest thing I have to lift is a pen like him, I'll go back to work. So I guess this is a good area, but people who do physically demanding jobs with age, that becomes less viable, obviously. I mean, what do we? I know you work in career coaching, but what do you say to people like that? That's a tricky one, isn't it?
Look, it is tricky, but for me, that's what I do. In the 1 hour sessions that I do, I literally pick people apart and go, okay, well, what have you done for so long? And I do this every day of my life. And literally people say, Kate, I wish I came to you earlier. But we take everything, you've got to work out what it is that you've done in the industry, utilise the skills that are transferable. So let's just say you've been in a physical role. What else were you doing? You know, were you dealing with clients? Were you dealing with, you know, suppliers or stakeholder management? What else is it that you're good at, that you enjoy, that can be transferable into another role? And then you create a resume that's going to aim and sway towards that and sell you, and then follow up, and all of those other things come in. So it's not about necessarily staying in what you've done your whole life. It's actually working out what else can you do that's still going to utilise the skills that you've gained and make them transferable.
Kate, thanks for speaking to me. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. No problem. I hope that helps.
That is Kate Langford on ABC Sunshine Coast. She's a career consultant and perhaps sits down and talks to people about what other skills they have that they could explore if they're in an area that in a job they could no longer do into their later years, say if it is a physically demanding job, as one of our writers pointed out. So the Treasurer gave this speech last night at the Committee for Economic Development of Australia. What do you think about some of those ideas? A lot of points raised there. 1300 903 222 is the number.